Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 3 with Momo, Rachel, Mike, and Ruth, where we're discussing our inner conversations with either our soul or our opponent. So thank you guys all so much for your incredibly open stories.
David, I
yes.
didn't share my story yet.
Oh,
You forgot about me. I'm
Plot
sitting here
twist.
waiting.
that's messed up.
I did. Yes, what's your story with the opponent?
So my story with the opponent in Soul Voice is that recently, my friends and I wanted to throw one of our friends a birthday party. And so we were,
Wait, actually, how come you didn't bring it up earlier? It's episode 3, by the way. Why didn't you push the issue?
What?
I'm joking. Go ahead, continue.
I was caught off guard. Don't worry, I'll make it quick. It's very different than Ruth, Momo, and Mike's, but basically my friends and I wanted to throw our other friend a party. So we posted about it. We were, texting all our friends to send us money because we really put in so much effort to make it really fun for the birthday boy. And one of the friends was not as enthusiastic as the others. He kind of refused to give the money in a way. He was just saying he was just making excuses. He was just saying oh, I can't make it, or maybe if I come, I'll stop by. And so it put me in a very awkward position. I'm sure so many people have felt like that, just in a weird position, especially with money. You just don't know what to say. So I kind of just played it off because I didn't want to be that difficult person, that was wait, So I was like, okay, no problem. And then after it, but it didn't sit right with me. And after I spoke to my mom about it, actually, and I was talking to her and venting to her, I just, I was in an awkward position. I didn't know what to say. I realized that I cared so much what he thought about me, and I wanted his approval in a way that it didn't allow me to stand up and be like, hey, 1 second, if you're going to come, you got to pay the money just like everybody else. So I ended up saying that. He didn't respond too well, but the point of the story,
I can imagine.
yeah, he was caught off guard, but I think he was just shocked that I called him out on it. But the point of the story was that I realized I was just insecure and scared, to say something because it was an awkward situation. And I wanted him to think that, oh, I'm cool, whatever. But
so take us through, just take us through really quickly, because it's super important. I think this is one of the main things that we're going to speak about in episode 3, which is tools to kind of go from opponent mode to soul mode. Just before you sent a message, before the party even happened, he's like, I'm kind of not coming, I'm not going to pay. And you kind of feel off about it. When you wanted to text him, what was the opponent saying to you?
When I wanted to text him hey, this isn't right.
Yeah.
The opponent was saying this is gonna be awkward. You're gonna look like the difficult friend. You're gonna create some beef with him, and he's gonna think of you why is she hounding me for the money?
You're gonna look like your older brother.
even though it was right for me and him, it wasn't right for him either to show up and not pay. Everybody's paying. What he's gonna come and eat and drink and everything and not pay for anything. So to be honest, I wasn't thinking about him. I was just thinking about myself. Even in the moment when I stood up to him, I wasn't thinking oh, this is right for him, which now looking back, I totally should have. I wish that was my intention, because that would have been more my soul voice of saying that this was best for both of us.
So essentially you chose approval and to be the nice friend instead of the difficult friend over setting a boundary and doing what was right for you and eventually him.
For sure. But what was awesome about it was at the end of the day, I did do that. I went back.
Yes, exactly. And I think the first point of realization and reflection for you was when you started to identify your opponent. When you had that conversation with your mom, and she's like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
So that's exactly. And that's the tool we want to bring up today for all of us. And we're just going to go through our different stories and examples that I think many of us can relate to, is identify your opponent. What is the opponent telling you? What are you choosing over choosing? but you're choosing approval over doing what's right for you and doing what's right for that person. It makes sense, by the way. It makes sense that you chose that. I think I would choose that as well if I was in your situation. But identifying, I'm making a trade here, that really pinpoints and puts the opponent on blast, and it's one of the first ways to beating him. Momo, what were you choosing? What was your opponent voice versus soul voice?
So for my stories, when I was sending them to people, right, to my friends, I was texting them. I was choosing, I realized a lot later, really now, that I was choosing their validation, right? Like they're validating my story, like, wow, he's such a good writer, da da da. Even if they would say like, but you could fix one or two things, I was really just focused on that was awesome, bro. Like da da da. Instead of putting myself out there and actually using the story for something or posting it online or starting, you know, something with it. Because then that would go to people who I didn't know for a fact would be like, wow, this is amazing. You know, when you put something out into the world, there's a lot of people who will just take a crap on it, you know, for whatever reason.
Who could take a crap on it, not necessarily.
Who could, but
Not
I'm saying
literally.
like that unknown is the scary part. So I'd rather have my small little amount of validation rather than risk it. You know, that's what I was choosing
powerful.
at the time. That's what I was choosing at the
Makes
time.
sense.
So your opponent said, "Momo, stay small.
Stay small
Let
and
three of
know you'll get some pretty solid feedback and validation and energy from these people rather than go big, risk it, and, you know, risk getting negative feedback and just
right."
like an ego crushing, which would have been
Wow.
great. I mean, growth.
That's that's
It
powerful.
would have
That's really
felt
powerful.
terrible, but it would have been good.
The opponent will always get you to stay strong, stay small. Am I wrong?
No.
Yes, I'm gonna be okay with this person. I'm not gonna do the work. I'll have somebody else do it for me. Stay small. Stay small and not really kind of grow and become the big version of ourselves that we do need to be.
100%.
That's how we can kind of identify staying small. So Mike, Ruth, do you see how you might have chosen something over something now that Momo and Rachel shared? I think they kind of put the spotlight on the opponent for us. Mike, what do you think you chose?
What I chose. So at the moment, you know, I really reflect back. I chose the easy way out. So whatever was in that moment the easy thing to do, that's what the opponent eventually drove me to do. And something I realized is that I basically chose that over, you know, sitting down and actually doing the work, you know, sitting down, actually learning the material, respecting my colleagues and my friends, and not taking over that. But something I always realized with that voice, usually in those kind of situations, it's always the easy way out. What could I do to not do enough effort? And it's basically like kind of, I would say, a little like selfish kind of thing. But it's always the easy way out. What way could I take to not do the work?
I love it. Like two things
Yeah.
came to mind. First, shortcut, just like a shortcut consciousness. I don't think your soul will ever say to take a shortcut. And
Yeah.
for me, that comes into like bringing the groceries into the house. Like you never want to do 2 trips. So you're like, oh, I'll just do 1 trip. And you see like all the blood like not going to your fingers. You kind of wait 3 minutes until your fingers get there. But it's a shortcut consciousness. I'm not going to make 2 trips. It's not worth the effort. I'll do what's easiest to take one.
There's like
one trip.
There's like groceries on the stairs. You just like, I'm not taking it. I'm just gonna take what I can.
We tried to be smart
So
once. Me and my friend, we brought in the groceries on a broom, and the broom ended up breaking in half.
Oh,
Like that's how many groceries were on this thing. We're like 1 trip, no going back. We loaded it up, and then the whole thing just bent inwards. We're like, like it wasn't even our broom. Oh my god. That was
No, that's usually what happens, by the way. And for anybody, by the way, that's watching, who's probably tried to take a shortcut, usually it ends up taking longer. You want to clean up quicker, so you kind of brush it under. And then I remember one time I was trying to close my job, and I didn't want to like go and get that thing that turns off the candle. I don't, you know, like you.
Oh
you,
yeah.
There's a thing that turns off the candle, so I was just doing like this. And I smacked the candle on the floor, and I spent the next 35, 40 minutes scraping wax off the floor. And I got home at like 1 instead of like 10.
Wow.
But the shortcut, it's beautiful. The only reason I spent so much time on it And I think, Mike, you give a great example, is the easy way over any type of work. That will always be the opponent. The soul is not, it doesn't have an issue with work. It doesn't have an issue with bringing itself to the world, but the opponent does have an issue with us making work and putting effort.
Because that's truth. Whatever is true in life, whatever lasts longest, whatever is really good, it's nothing. It is not. Nothing is overnight. Something that's real and true. What is true? It's hard work. It's perseverance. It's a process, you know. But that's I think the beauty of life and the beauty about all these interactions and things we go through in life, you know, because it's not about giving up and doing the easy thing. It's about continuing and, you know, putting in the work, I guess.
Yes, 100%. And Ruth, for you, take us just back to that story, to that experience when you were, you know, seeing it or feeling it and knowing that it's coming up. Do you see yourself choosing one thing over the other? What were your feelings like in that moment?
Yeah, I totally chose one thing over another. I prefer to be comfortable having my best friend, having my boyfriend, having my plans, and not to confront situation. And like, instead of having a real connection with my best friend and my boyfriend, I chose to be comfortable, just to leave it like that. And yeah, I think that is worse at the end, because you like the outcome is 100% like worse
Than it would have been if you would have said, I choose a real connection over comfort.
Exactly. If I would like confront it before, wouldn't be that dramatic or hurtful. Sorry.
I just want to, first of all, thank you for sharing your story kind of publicly. And I think you speak for many people that do choose comfort in relationships. It's much easier to not fight. It's so much easier to not fight. It's easier to be in a relationship. Say, I want to stay friendly. I want to talk to them tomorrow. I want to still be in public with my boyfriend and have my best friend. So why would I cause issues where I might not have my boyfriend tomorrow and I might not have my best friend tomorrow if I accuse them for something like this? So the comfort, I mean, it's very hard to say that you would choose, you know, real relationship over comfort, but that's the way the opponent frames it. It frames that comfort is going to be what's best. But now knowing, you know, what you know, seeing that it would have been much more powerful for you to have that real relationship. And I think this is ultimately what's the most important thing about everything that we're talking about. We're saying, you know, we had a best friend. We thought our best friend had our best interest in mind, and it flipped up on us. Our opponent will always look like it has our best interest in mind, right? Rachel wanted approval. Momo wanted to stay small. Like, I won't get hurt. No one's going to give me feedback. They might not accept me or love me, but they're close and intimate friends. Mike saying, I don't have to do hard work. I can get someone to do the hard work for me. These all seem like your bestie. They seem like the opponent has your best interest in mind. Now, hindsight is 2020. We can see everything. And the most important thing, I think, for all of us, and we can all relate, is to identify the opponent, to identify what's the trade-off, what are we getting for what we're losing? Because a lot of the times we might realize that we don't want to make that trade. I want my blood circulation in my fingers, so I will do 2 trips. I will make 2 trips. And just one visual before we leave. You know, whenever there's like a thief and he's running away from the police, whenever there's a helicopter kind of flying over him and then there's a spotlight on him, there's a 99% chance that he gets caught. But if there's no helicopter, you see the car chases, right? Once there's a light on you, everybody knows where you're at. Everybody knows where you're going. If you find a way to keep hiding and there's no spotlight on you, the thief can get away. The opponent is the same. He tries to hide into things that make a lot of sense. The first thing, and this is what we're taking away from today, the first thing we do is say, what's my trade-off? Who is talking to me right now when it says, go the easy way out, be approved? Catch the opponent so that you can start to realize the trade-off. And more times than not, you'll start to choose the voice of your soul. Do you agree, guys, that if you would have seen this trade-off that clear in the moment, you might have made a different choice? Just
100%.
100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I guess the way I see the opponent is like the really convincing business partner that's like scamming you in some way. Like that's the way I see it, and it's just about saying no. You know, I'm going with like doing business with someone that is a close friend, someone you know. That's way more beneficial than this scammer. That's the way I see it for sure.
Genius.
100%. I love that. I love that.
Thank
Mike,
you.
Momo, Ruth, Rachel, do you have anything to add before we check off? Any thoughts?
One thing that comes to mind is, for me, this may or may not apply to everybody, but one of the ways that I recognize the opponent is in any time I feel extreme emotion or complete lack of emotion, right? There's just hopefully another way to help you recognize where he's operating. Is in extreme emotion, right? He wants me to do something immediately based off of my, passion in the moment, or my anger, or my sadness, or my hatred, whatever it is, right? He says, yo, you're feeling it, let's do something, right? But I'm literally not going to be thinking. It's just going to be that emotion doing whatever, right? So I'm like, immediately I'm like, okay, there's like no control there. There's no thought. Something's wrong. He wants me to just jump, right? And then on the flip side, where there's no emotion, is he wants me to be inactive because doing something would be more work, right? So like somebody just whatever, somebody gave me like a really hard task at work, right? And my mind and body just go like, they shut down. I'm not doing this. I don't want to be. I'm done with this, right? Like I'm totally, right? Obviously, in that moment, my opponent's like, yo, just sit down, and you're not taking this. You're just gonna like completely shut down. It's too much stress. It's too much work. Just don't think about it, right? Versus like, no, this really needs to get done, right? I'm sure once you do it, it'll make you like whatever.
Once you start it, once you start it,
all you have to do is get up from the chair. Just go start it.
Yes.
Something will happen, right? But if you sit here and do nothing, this is like procrastinating a homework assignment till the last second. It's just gonna hurt you, right? Your opponent's like, nah, do it
100%.
tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. I don't want to. Right?
I love that.
Total nothing and too much. That's the easiest ways in my mind to recognize the opponent.
Thank you, Momo. I'm happy we didn't sign off before that comment, because that really helps. It puts things into perspective, that the extreme emotion or no emotion, one way to identify opponent. If you're like, I'm not feeling anything right now, I'm not going to confront, I don't want to think about how I feel, totally the opponent, not allowing you to grow and expand yourself. And the second is just try and find the trade-off. Try and find, I choose this over this. You'll start to catch your opponent. You'll start to listen to the voice of your soul. So guys, thank you so much, Momo, Rachel, for sharing your story in episode 3 and stepping up and not letting us just miss that story, because I think many people needed it. And Mike and Ruth, thank you guys all so much for being here. And thank you guys all so much for watching. And we hope this was really helpful. And we'll see you in a future episode. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.